Hello and welcome to Wild Podcasts. I'm your host, Stephen Walton, coming at you with a Houston post-game. K-State football beat the Houston Cougars 41 to nothing as Houston came to Manhattan on a very cold Saturday morning game, 11 a.m. kickoff, and I believe I saw the high was only 36. Very cold day for us in the stands. We still managed to sell out with about 51,928, if I remember right. Can definitely say that most people were gone by the end of the game, and if not by halftime. There was definitely a lot of people that left early, but I can't say I blame them with how cold it was and how not close of a game this really was. So, with that being said, let's get right into it. All right, as I said, K-State knocked off Houston 41 to nothing. Houston came in to this game after almost upsetting the University of Texas, who was our next opponent. So we were afraid. I was afraid a little bit that they might come in with a little bit of confidence. However, whatever confidence they may have had, the cold seeped out of them. As by the end of the first quarter, I believe it was 14 nothing, if I remember right. Um, my apologies. It was 7-0. Then we shortly scored after in the second quarter to make it 14 to nothing, and then we scored two more touchdowns in the second quarter. So by halftime, it was over. They were freezing. I took what I thought was a pretty funny picture, at least, of most of their team just huddled around the heater in the first half. They had a lineman literally sitting on the ground in front of the heater, and they just did not look happy to be there. This is their first game outside of the state of Texas for the entire season. Even their non-conference games they played in the state of Texas, they were not ready for this weather. This is a real welcome to the Big 12 moment for them, as this is something that most of the other teams that we play are used to, or at least their coaches are used to. But Houston did not look ready for it, did not look like they wanted to be there. And I think that our offensive line and defense made them feel that way as well, just by how overpowering both of them were. The defense held them to only 2.98 yards per play, which is even better than our season average, which is 5.51. And they had 8 drives, and of course, no touchdowns, no points, no field goals. They had a field goal attempt, but the wind caught it and knocked it out. I think it was like a 46-yarder, if I remember right. They only averaged 15.6 yards per drive, so maybe they got a few first downs, but I rarely remember even seeing them on our side of the 50. I don't think that they ever even ended up in the red zone against us. Um, it was just an all around, just dominant game by our defense. It certainly helped that our offense was holding up their end of the deal, scoring 41 points on them and making it look easy, if we're being honest. Our offensive line was pancaking guys left and right. It wasn't just Cooper Beebe, although Cooper just annihilated a guy. He killed a guy. And I'm sure you saw it all over your Twitter feed. Saw it, may have seen it on Sports Center. Like, he's been everywhere. And then after that, he goes and dresses up as Nacho Libre for the Halloween get together. It looked like they had, and it was just an incredible costume by him. So he was living his best life. He goes and pancakes a guy, then dresses up as Nacho Libre. Just a crowd favorite. Has to be a fan favorite. And then right after the hit, it was really funny because I was just on Twitter. Um, we just scored, so we were waiting on the ESPN commercials to be over, and his dad is retweeting and liking every single post on Twitter that even mentioned him pancaking someone's, and there were some really funny ones out there. So I definitely would go look at I believe it's Tom Beebe's Twitter profile and see all the ones that he retweeted because they're just outrageous. It was such a fun play to have seen live and then get to see on replays. But not only that, Cooper, of course, had a great game, but Will Howard came out and had one of the best games of the season. He only had 2 incompletions the entire game. At one point, he had completed 12 straight. Just an incredible game by him. Solidified himself as the starter, at least for the next game against Texas. Avery came out and had an unfortunate fumble. And then after that, I was happy that the coaches stayed with the hot hand. They didn't try and really take anything away from Will just to get Avery some snaps. They saw that Will was dealing out there, and they stuck with him. His first pass was even to Garrett Oakley, which shows you that He didn't care who was passing to this game as long as they were open. His first touchdown pass, I should say, a 12-yarder to Garrett. Ben Sinnott was pretty limited in this game, so we got to see a decent amount of Garrett Oakley out there. So that was pretty nice because he's going to be one of our main key contributors in the upcoming seasons. On that note, we're expecting Ben Sinnott to be a full participant in the Texas game. But back to Will, 155 yards, 8.2 yards per play, 7 different Wildcats had catches, and that was before we put in Avery, and then we got a Jake Rubley sighting, which was awesome. And we were led by Phillip Brooks, who had 83 yards and a touchdown as well. So just a really solid all-around game from Mr. Howard. Didn't need to do anything too flashy to win this game. He just did what was needed. And then, of course, our rushing game can't have success this season if you're K-State without the rushing game because of how dominant our offensive line has been in the run game. And with that, DJ Giddens led the rushing with 96 yards on 13 carries, which is 7.4 yards per rush, and he had 2 touchdowns. And then Jaden Jackson had a couple of jet sweeps that had a few yards. Trayshawn Ward ended up with 30 yards on 9 carries and did have a rushing score. I saw that we tried to get Jace Brown in on those jet sweeps. They just weren't really working when he was running them. Jaden Jackson was able to get uphill, I think, a little bit easier, or at least was able to use his larger, he's like a fourth or fifth year senior, use his larger frame, I think, to even get a few more yards than the true freshman Jace was. Not to say Jace Brown, was bad by any means, but I think that Jaden was a little bit more successful when it came to the jet sweep game. You're going to see that door open and close behind me a lot during this podcast. I've got the Wild Podcats in the room with me. Willa and Prudence are deciding to hang out with me while I'm recording this podcast, and they cannot decide whether or not they want to be in the room right now. So just know that door is going to be opening and closing randomly. There's no ghosts. I know it's the day, it's Hallows Eve, if you will, the day before Halloween. But there's no spookiness going on here. It's just 2 kitty cats. Jumping over the defense and a little bit more of their stats. They were able to hold Houston to 56 yards on passing before the fourth quarter, which is pretty incredible because they had a really good passing attack, or at least were known for it, and weren't known for the run. However, it looked like they came out trying to run, probably because it was so cold, would be my assumption. Or maybe they were just trying to throw something at us that we weren't expecting. But I think we have the best. I believe we have the best run defense in the Big 12. So we were up for the challenge. We held them to 69 rushing yards, which is pretty nice. 4.1 yards per rush. So really good defensive showing. We did four punts, had an interception, and had a turnover on downs. And we also prevented them from scoring at halftime due to that missed field goal that I touched on earlier. And if I remember right, on defense, we only had 1 sack. We had a lot of quarterback hurries. Their quarterback, Smith, is known as someone that's able to use his legs to evade pressure, and he did that quite a few times. Once, not to the benefit of them. He evaded quite a few Wildcats and threw a pick to Will Lee. Will Lee, probably the player of the game with an interception and a forced fumble. Pretty good game and showing by him. I'd love to see him get his confidence back, especially going into this big game this coming week. But Nate Matlack, if I remember right, was the only one that had a sack this game. Still had a lot of good pressure on the quarterback, so he wasn't sitting pretty back there in the pocket or anything by any means. And if we're going to be talking about games that happened this weekend, we got to talk about the Oklahoma game that happened down in Lawrence. It was terrible weather. They got all the weather that missed us. I was so grateful that we did not have to sit through that. That it went to the south of us because it was already cold enough. We didn't need thunder and lightning and rain hitting us as well. Although I know, unlike the fans over there in Lawrence, we would have probably stayed, or at least the majority of us would have stayed to watch the game. But after the rain delay was over there, it looked like a high school game by the amount of people that stayed, and they really missed out on a good football game because the Dirty Birds over there managed to walk away with the upset victory on OU, which I believe was like their first since, I don't know, was it like 1998 or something? I don't have the exact stat on that, but it had been forever. And it's nice to get them an L on their way out of the Big 12. And hopefully they receive one this week in Bedlam. I would love to see a Big 12 championship game with no traders involved in it, no Texas, no OU. So if we can take care of business this weekend, we can certainly assist with that. Right now, there's quite the tie at the top of the Big 12 standings, and even those that aren't tied are still in the running. There's 7 teams that still have a shot, really a genuine shot at making the Big 12 championship. Starts with OU. All these teams that I'm going to go down are 4-1 in the conference. OU, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Texas, and of course us at 4-1 in the conference. What's wild is all these teams play each other in the upcoming weeks. So we have, of course, Texas this week. Oklahoma has Oklahoma State this week. We play Iowa State. Iowa State, I think, plays almost everyone on that schedule. Iowa State has the worst schedule to finish out this year. If they were somehow run through that schedule, they would have deserved to be in the Big 12 championship. However, I don't see it. They've had a pretty weak schedule up to this point, and I think it's really they're really going to get a wake up call going into these upcoming games. I think they maybe win one more and become bowl eligible, which is pretty solid for them considering what they've gone through at the start of the season with all the gambling issues that Iowa and Iowa State ran into and how many players they lost. So a pretty solid season, much to my chagrin to say. However, I do not see them making it very far. I think the true contenders here are going to be the K-State, Texas, Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma's of the world. Some people can throw in KU, but again, they have a tough stretch going forward. Somehow West Virginia is hanging around again, another team that has a tough stretch going forward and that may be playing above themselves. West Virginia still needs one more win to become bowl eligible. We'll see. They're playing BYU this week. They have a shot. BYU in night games, typically very good, but any other time, horrible. So we'll see how it plays out. But I will be rooting again. I will be rooting for Oklahoma State this week. Of course, rooting for us. Rooting for anyone that's facing Iowa State the rest of the way. Rooting for anyone that's facing Oklahoma and Texas the rest of the way. As long as we finish ahead of KU, I'll continue to root for them. As gross as that makes me feel, as long as we beat them, we just need to win out. So I'll be rooting for us to win out the rest of the year. Of course, not like I wouldn't be in the first place, but we need to. But if we could see a K-State Oklahoma State rematch in the Big 12 championship game, I think that'd be pretty awesome because I think that we would show out and I think we would take care of business there. We weren't the team that we were then when we faced them the first time. However, if we have a rematch of the Sunflower Showdown somehow, it would take a decent amount to make that happen. It'd be pretty cool. Or even a rematch of Armageddon would be cool. However, the most likely scenario is going to be Kansas State and OU. OU is obviously beatable. We just saw them lose to KU of all people. They've almost lost to several teams this season. So they're certainly beatable. And it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to face them in the Big 12 championship. Although, again, I don't want either of the traders to be there. If we can be the one that shows them the door with a loss, I'd be okay with that. I've been saying it since he came to visit. Jaquez, I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly, Spradley Demps has flipped his commitment from North Texas and is now a Wildcat. He's out of Pflugerville, Texas. He's a receiver. 6'1", 195. He's ranked as the number 99 wide receiver in the nation and number 116 overall prospect in Texas. Texas just has a ton of prospects, so that's actually a pretty good ranking, for being honest. He adds speed to us, which I know our coaches are really going for as of late. He runs track and field. He put up a 10.91 100-meter dash in the spring. He'll have another crack at it this season if he wants to. So he's just a really athletic, flexible player. We can put him in the slot or on the outside, or even sometimes line him up in the backfield. He just has a lot of athleticism, which we need on this team to continue to compete at a high level like we have been. We've been seeing it out of our corners as of late. Extremely athletic and able to keep up with these receivers, such as what TCU has, and hopefully what Texas has coming up. So it'll pay dividends to continue to bring in these high-profile athletes. Another visitor that we had this weekend was Navarro Shunke. It wasn't just the Patrick Ngongba weekend. It was Navarro Shunke coming to visit. I'm assuming I'm saying his last name correctly. If I'm not, my apologies. He is the number 1 rated prospect out of South Dakota. He's a interior offensive lineman, and he is a 4-star. He is the 18th ranked interior offensive lineman receiving a 90 rating by 24/7 Sports. He's 6'5", 285, and he is a national champion wrestler. And to make this even better, he accepted the offer of a preferred walk-on position at Kansas State, not because of any reason other than a Native American scholarship. Because this young man is Native American, he received a scholarship based on that, so that the football team did not have to use one of their scholarships. So he accepted a preferred walk-on, still getting his school paid for. However, it leaves us with another scholarship slot, and we just brought in a 4-star lineman. So just an incredible all-around get for us. I did not realize that we were even hosting him this weekend. That's on me, but big-time get for K-State. Navarro Shunke, 18th ranked interior offensive lineman in the country, number 1 out of South Dakota, 4-star 90 rating. So really awesome get for Kansas State. And of course, Patrick Ngongbo was visiting. I wish it would have been nicer weather, but at least it wasn't as bad as it could have been. It looked like he was in the crowd with David Castillo and Naquan Tomlin, who we'll be touching on a little bit more in a little bit, doing the Wabash with the students, just really enjoying his time with in the student section. It's a culture and something that other universities just can't recreate. Like, we're going against Duke and Kentucky. What's their game day environment like for football games? Probably nothing like what he's experiencing here. And we also bring it for basketball, as I've seen. We've had several sellouts to start the season already. So really great environment for him to come see. We still sold out, even though it was 30-something degrees outside and cold as all get out. So hopefully on November 4th, which is when he's deciding, we'll see some purple on top of his head by way of a hat. And we'll have our center of the future to go with our point guard of the future, David Castillo. So that'd be pretty incredible. So fingers crossed there. I think our coaches have done everything they can here. I saw that earlier in the week, they still flew out to his basketball game in Pennsylvania, even though he was going to be there a couple days later. The whole contingency was out there. They are pulling out all the stops, hoping to bring this young man to Kansas State. I saw awesome signage all throughout Aggieville and also Manhattan itself saying, "Welcome home, Pat. Welcome home, Patrick." It was just incredible. Incredible showing by the community and the fans and the coaches. So we've done everything we can here. The ball's in his court, no pun intended. Just really hope it works out for us there. Some unfortunate news coming out of the weekend. There were no pictures of Naquan Tomlin wearing his Madea outfit that I've come across. I would have assumed there would be, because he did get into a fight this weekend in Aggieville and was arrested. He was charged with assault and battery, and he was released on $750 bond. He has since been indefinitely suspended from our basketball team, as announced by Coach Tang Monday night, so tonight, October 30th. And here's his quote. "I have indefinitely suspended Naquan Tomlin for not living up to the expectations we require of our players. Although he is not with the team, he is still part of our family, and we will do what we can to support him as he moves through this process." That sounds to me like he's not going to be with the team anytime soon. I was hoping maybe it would just be like 5 games or something, but Drum Tang is not one to take these things lightly, as some of our in-state folks might. An incident at Tubby's Sports Bar. Nothing good necessarily happens at Tubby's after midnight. We've all, not all, I know a few of us have had our run-ins after midnight in the Ville. These things happen. However, when you're a projected first-round NBA prospect, you got to hold yourself to a higher standard, and Coach Tang is holding him to that higher standard. So he may be out for quite some time. Hopefully it's not that long, but I trust Coach Tang to do what's right. And we do need to support Naquan. Hopefully there's nothing too crazy out there going on in the Twitter sphere. These things happen. This is a 21, 22-year-old kid, not from Manhattan, not from Kansas, from New York. It's a whole different world for him. So hopefully he's getting the help that he needs, whether it be, legal or psychological or anything like that, all the help that he can get to get through this and come back a better man, hoping the best for him there. Before this weekend even started, we were able to witness the K-State women's volleyball team knock off number 8 BYU 3-0 on Thursday, which was our fourth, if I remember right, top 25 win of the season, which is pretty incredible for the Volley Cats. and then we turned around and faced BYU again. So you think, okay, well, BYU wasn't expecting that. They're going to come back around and potentially, make this a game or put us back in our place. No, we beat BYU again 3-0. We finished that doubleheader beating them 6 sets to nothing. The Volley Cats are playing great right now. It's a lot of fun to see, especially in that brand new arena. 2 sold-out games, so getting a lot of support from the community and the fans as a whole, which they deserve. And I'm very hopeful to see them ranked here soon. Another finish from this weekend in cross country. The women finished 5th in the Big 12. Men finished 9th. There were several new bests, but I was really hopeful that our women could place a little bit higher. However, a good showing from them. Saw golf won a tournament as well. Our women's golf team won a tournament, so kudos to them. Women's soccer is not playing anymore as the Big 12 championship goes on. We did not make the Big 12 tournament, unfortunately, this year. Looks like we have a lot of returners, though, so things are looking good up from there. Our women's basketball team came in ranked at 24th in the preseason polls, so that's pretty awesome. Mitty's doing a good job there. We should have a really good season with our returners. And then Ayoka Lee, of course, coming back from a year-long injury to bring this team back to the tournament, hopefully, and hopefully make a run there. But we've got a long season ahead, and I'm very interested to see how this team competes going forward. With that being said, K-State, the football boys came in 25th in the AP. The College Football Playoff Committee has been meeting, of course, and those rankings come out, the very first rankings of the year, on Halloween. Hopefully it'll be a little spooky season action. We'll scare some people with how high we're ranked there. Fingers crossed that's higher than 25th. I think we honestly deserve to be higher than 25th based on how we've been playing of late, but I can also understand losses to Oklahoma State, not the greatest. However, they should be ranked. They're not. Missouri is ranked, so that was another loss of ours, unfortunately. They're ranked pretty high, actually. So both of ours are quality losses. Quality losses aren't fun things to have, but if you're going to have losses, at least make it not South Alabama, right? Oklahoma State. Or Iowa State. So with that being said, I'm hopeful that the College Football Playoff Committee will take into consideration who we've lost to and just how well we've been playing of late going into these rankings. So again, that's coming out on the 31st. Have a spooky Halloween. I'll be back to you later this week, and have a good rest of your week. Go Cats.